Coronado, California. Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, home of Navy SEAL training. Tuesday morning, 9 o'clock, August 1970. The air smells like ocean salt and sweat. This is where America trains its most elite warriors. An outdoor training area, hard-packed dirt. No shade, sun already hot. A circle of 12 men stands around the space, all wearing military fatigues, all muscular, all hard. These aren't regular soldiers. These are SEAL instructors. Men who train other men to become SEALs. Men who've been to Vietnam, who've seen combat, who've killed enemies. Bruce Lee stands in the center, 30 years old, 5'7", 135, wearing black training pants and no shirt. Practical for heat and demonstration. His body is lean, defined, functional muscle. The base commanding officer stands to one side, Commander James Patterson, 50 years old, career Navy. He's been training privately with Bruce in Los Angeles, invited him here to demonstrate to SEAL instructors. Commander Patterson addresses the 12. Gentlemen, this is Bruce Lee. Some may recognize him from the Green Hornet, but he's not here as an actor. He's here as a martial artist. I've been training with him. I believe his methods have value for our hand-to-hand combat curriculum. Watch with open minds. Ask questions. Test what you see. One of the 12 instructors shifts. Chief Petty Officer Dan Morrison. Call sign Bulldog. 34, 6'4", 245. Enormous. Muscle from years of hard military training. Scar on his left shoulder. Shrapnel from Da Nang. 2 tours in Vietnam. 15 years Navy. He's the senior SEAL instructor. Dan doesn't look impressed. He's seen martial artists before. Demonstrations that look good but fail in real combat. He's skeptical. Bruce nods to the commander. Thank you for inviting me. I'll keep this practical. Everything I show today is what I've tested under pressure. He addresses the 12. I understand you're skeptical. You should be. You've been in combat. You know what works. What I'm offering isn't replacement. It's enhancement. Principles that can make what you already do more efficient. Dan crosses his arms, says, loud enough for everyone. Here we go. Another kung fu master selling magic. Bruce hears it, doesn't react. Let me demonstrate basic principles. I need a volunteer. One instructor steps forward, 5'11", 190. Bruce works with him for 10 minutes, showing sensitivity drills, how to read intention, how to control structure. The instructor is impressed. This is interesting, different from what we learned. Subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, and comment. More true Bruce Lee stories are coming. Dan says loudly, it's interesting because it's training. Put him in a jungle at night with VC trying to kill him. See if his chi sensitivity works then. Several instructors laugh, acknowledging Dan's point. They respect him. He's been there. Bruce looks at Dan, calm. You're right, that training is different from combat. But principles that work in training work in combat if they're based on structure and timing, not mysticism. What I teach isn't magic. It's physics. Dan says physics. Right. I teach physics too. It's called being bigger, stronger, and more violent than the enemy. Bruce nods. Size and strength are advantages. Absolutely. But they're not everything. Would you like me to demonstrate on you? Dan uncrosses his arms. Demonstrate what? Your movie fighting. Bruce says calmly. Demonstrate that principles work regardless of size. If you're willing, Commander Patterson intervenes. Dan, step forward. Let's see what Mr. Lee is talking about. Dan looks at the commander. Sir, with respect, I'm not one of his students. I'm a SEAL. I've killed men in combat. I don't need a Hollywood actor showing me how to fight. The circle goes quiet. That was direct. Borderline insubordinate. Commander Patterson says firmly, I gave you an order, Chief. Step forward. Dan walks into center, stands in front of Bruce. The size difference is absurd. Dan is 6'4", 245. Bruce is 5'7", 135. Dan outweighs Bruce by over 100 pounds. Dan looks down at Bruce. What do you want me to do? Pretend to attack so you can do your choreographed moves. Bruce says, no. I want you to really attack. Use your training. Use your size. Full commitment. Dan looks at the commander. Sir, I don't want to hurt him. Commander Patterson says, Mr. Lee has agreed to this. If he asks you to stop, you stop. Otherwise, treat this as real training. Dan looks back at Bruce. All right, movie star, you asked for it. Come fight a real man. Not movie extras, a real warrior. Someone who's actually been in combat. The 11 other instructors are riveted. Dan Morrison is as tough as they come. Legitimate warrior. If Bruce can handle Dan, that proves something. Bruce says quietly, whenever you're ready. Dan moves, not slow, closes distance fast, reaches for Bruce's shoulder, trying to use his size. Bruce's hand intercepts Dan's wrist before the grip establishes. Light touch, redirects. Dan's hand misses. Dan resets, tries again. Faster. Bruce intercepts again, controls the wrist. Bruce has moved slightly offline. Dan tries to reacquire, reaches with other hand. Bruce controls that wrist too. Now Bruce has both wrists. Dan tries to pull away, use strength. But Bruce isn't holding with strength. He's controlling structure. Dan's balance shifts. Bruce releases one wrist. His hand moves to Dan's elbow. Light pressure. Dan's entire arm is compromised. Extended, wrong, vulnerable. In combat, this would be a break. Bruce releases immediately, steps back. Dan resets. Breathing harder, not from exertion, from realization. He attacks again, more aggressive. Goes low, tries wrestling. Use his weight. Bruce's knee comes up. Light contact. Touches Dan's chest. Not a strike, just a stop. Dan's momentum is redirected. He stumbles. Bruce has already moved behind, hand touching back of Dan's neck. Gentle pressure. In combat, that's a choke. Bruce releases, steps back. Dan turns. His face is different. Less skeptical, more focused. He attacks again and again. For 45 seconds, Dan Morrison tries every approach he knows, tries to use size, strength, training, experience. Every time Bruce controls, not with force, with position, with timing, with understanding of structure. Dan never lands anything, never establishes dominant position. Bruce demonstrates opening after opening, where he could strike, could break, could finish, but never does. Just shows. After 45 seconds, Dan stops, stands breathing hard, looks at Bruce. What the hell was that? Bruce says, that was principles, structure, timing, sensitivity. Not magic, physics, body mechanics, understanding how humans move and where they're vulnerable. Dan says, I'm trained. I've been in combat. I know how to fight. But I couldn't touch you. You're half my size, and you completely neutralized everything I did, Bruce says. Not completely. You're very skilled, very strong. But you're trained in techniques. I'm applying principles. Techniques have limitations. Principles adapt. Dan nods slowly, looks at the other 11. You all saw that? They nod. One says, he wasn't using strength. He was using leverage and position. Dan turns to Bruce. Can you teach that? Can you teach SEALs to do what you just did? Bruce says, I can teach principles. Whether they can apply them depends on dedication. But yes, what I did can be learned. Dan extends his hand. Bruce shakes it. Dan says, I apologize for the movie start comment. That was disrespectful. You're legitimate. What you just showed is combat effective. I've been in enough real situations to recognize what works. This works. Bruce says, no apology needed. You were protecting your men. I respect that. Commander Patterson steps forward. Dan, what's your assessment? Dan looks at Bruce, then at the commander. Yes, sir. Absolutely. What he demonstrated addresses gaps in our training. We teach strength and aggression. He teaches sensitivity and efficiency. Combined, that makes us more complete. Bruce says, I'm willing to work with your instructors. Teach principles they can incorporate, not replacing your methods, enhancing them. Dan says, when can you start? For the next 6 months, Bruce returns to Coronado every other week, teaches SEAL instructors, teaches principles of sensitivity, structure, efficiency. The instructors are exceptional students. They already understand violence, already understand pressure. Dan Morrison becomes one of Bruce's strongest advocates, incorporates what Bruce teaches into SEAL hand-to-hand combat curriculum. Years later, Dan says, Bruce Lee earned my respect the hard way. I challenged him publicly, tested him with everything I had. He controlled me completely while showing restraint and respect. That's a warrior. The 12 SEAL instructors who witnessed that demonstration tell the story occasionally. We watched Bruce Lee handle Bulldog Morrison like he was a beginner. Bulldog is 6'4", 245, combat veteran, legitimate warrior. Bruce is 5'7", 135. Size didn't matter. What mattered was understanding principles Bulldog didn't have. Bruce gave us those principles. One instructor says, what impressed me most wasn't defeating Dan. It was how Bruce did it, with respect, with control. He could have humiliated Dan. Instead, he taught him. That's mastery. Bruce's influence on military hand-to-hand combat is documented. SEAL training incorporates principles Bruce taught: sensitivity drills, structure, control, efficiency over strength. Dan Morrison is credited with modernizing SEAL combat training by integrating martial arts principles. He always credits Bruce. That morning at Coronado, August 1970, 12 SEAL instructors watching, one senior instructor challenging, 45 seconds of demonstration that proved principles transcend size, strength, and military training. One warrior recognizing another warrior across different traditions. Dan Morrison incorporated what Bruce taught until his retirement. He tells students, I challenged Bruce Lee, told him to come fight a real man. He showed me I didn't understand what a real man was. Real strength isn't dominating, it's teaching. Bruce Lee was a real man. I learned that the hard way. Sometimes the highest form of respect comes from warriors who've seen real combat, acknowledging someone showed them something new, something that makes them better. Bruce Lee gave that to 12 Navy SEAL instructors. They carried it for their careers, passed it to thousands of SEALs, all because one man was willing to demonstrate principles and 12 warriors were willing to learn. Even when the demonstration started with skepticism and challenge, even when one warrior had to be proven wrong before he could be taught. That's how real learning happens. That's how warriors recognize each other across difference. Subscribe, enable notifications, like the video, and comment below which Bruce Lee moment surprised you most.